555 selfie. Send. There we go. In 6 to 8 weeks, my selfies will arrive by mail, and then I can send them in and post them on the interwebs. So, analog selfies, the new thing. Thought today for part 3, we try something a little bit different. And so I purchased some random boxes of CBS Fox videos on eBay, and we'll see what all we have in there. Maybe something a little bit different or a little bit surprising. Let's get to it. Here's a romance classic, Romancing the Stone. Special shout out to watcher Dave O'Kelly, who noted this was the first CBS Fox video that he purchased, and as he put it, started his addiction. I had the chance to buy this on beta once, and I passed on it. I wish I had taken it, because the price was perfect. It was like a couple bucks, but there you go. Kind of a shout out to those old adventure classics. This would have been brand new when this tape was printed, too. It says here, tape 1984, same year the film came out. So that's pretty neat. This would have been the newest, hottest thing there. There's one down. We have Baby Boom. This is with Diane Keaton, I believe. I've never seen this movie before. It has the stylized spine there, not just the plain white text. Tape printed 88, so that would make sense. She plays a typical Diane Keaton role, busy businesswoman thrust into some kind of domestic situation. Movies like The First Wives Club and Something's Gotta Give, those sorts of things. This was probably like the progenitor to those. So I'll be curious to watch it though. I love Diane Keaton, she's good in anything. Here's one we've talked about before, Charlie. I showed this off on my other ones. I'm going to compare and see if this video is in better shape than the one I currently have, and if it is, I'll swap them out. But something I forgot to show when I talked about Charlie last time, the book that it's based on. I talked about it, but I didn't actually show it to you, so there's a copy, my copy of Flowers for Algernon. There are ones that were printed to tie in with the Charlie movie, but this is not one of those. This is a relatively new copy. You can see I've only read this a couple times, that sort of thing. So yeah, pretty cool though. Thought we'd do that, avoid any duplicates there. Speaking of books, doodle-doodle-doo, 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 dun-dun-dun, from Russia with love. I love James Bond. I keep saying one day I'm going to make a James Bond video here, or a couple James Bond videos, and I haven't done it yet, but here's a Bond video I didn't have before, at least not a CBS Fox version of it, From Russia with Love. David Zaritsky of the Bond Experience would murder me because I can't remember the first Bond film I ever saw. He said that's very important to remember the first Bond you watch, but I can't. I think it was From Russia with Love though. Such a great film, very iconic. Again, like Dr. No, they were just starting out. They would improve things as they went. From Russia with Love has some convoluted story parts. It has a few bad editing and effects choices, but still a great film, and again, a template for spy adventures to come. And here's the paperback for you. This is an old one here. It's pretty ratty, but it's the one I've had since I was a kid, and I really enjoy it. It's a really good book, one of Ian Fleming's best. So it's fun to have the movie on this old CBS Fox video now. And we'll go that way. And last one in this small box that wants to come out is South Pacific. You might notice right off the bat the package for this one is quite different from the rest. This tape was printed 1990, so they're definitely upgrading from the mid-80s in terms of how it's presented. But I mean, look at just the color on this. We don't just have, you know, white text on a black background. There's like drawn images from the film. It's wraparound, you know, there's artwork on the sides. The back doesn't really have artwork on it per se, but it does have the color scheme, you know, all these blues and greens and stuff. South Pacific, of course, based on the novel by James Michener, his big breakthrough novel. One of my least favorite Michener books. I've read almost all of his works. I have almost all his works. I haven't read all of them yet. A lot of them are huge epics. Huge epics. We all know Hawaii. Here's the movie version. I have the book too, but this is, I think, three and a half hours, something like that. 3 hours and 10 minutes, excuse me, not 3 hours and a half. So, but anyway, Tales of the South Pacific, his first book, and it was adapted by Rodgers and Hammerstein into the musical for the stage. I've seen a stage production of South Pacific. It was very good, even though it was just a local theater thing. It was still very good. It's a wonderful show. And you can get Rodgers and Hammerstein films. We talked about The Sound of Music before. Here's the big box set. My favorite's 1945 State Fair. My least favorite, 1962 State Fair, so figure that out. But I'm not a huge fan of South Pacific, the movie. I think a lot of the dubbing is pretty bad. You know, the voices they choose for the singers, because a lot of actors, you know, don't do their own singing. The actors they choose to sing for them don't really match who they are. John Carr especially, the voice for him is all wrong. And something that every review will note, so I'll only touch on it, they used a lot of colorful filters, I think to kind of give Bali High this otherworldly view, this bizarre tropical paradise of nothing else like it on Earth. And they go way too heavy on the color in some scenes, where it looks like you're watching the movie through mustard or something. So there were some good ideas. The songs are wonderful. Even the silly songs like Honey Bun and Happy Talk are still a lot of fun. And of course, Some Enchanted Evening, probably one of the most iconic songs of all time. So that little box had some fun stuff in it. Let's look at the large box. We got lots of bubble wrap. Get rid of all that. Let's see who's first. Cocoon from 1985, Steven Spielberg sci-fi classic, one of my favorite Spielberg movies. 1986 was when this tape was printed, so this movie was still fairly new at that time. It still has the wrapper on, but it is open. It's not a sealed video. Cocoon's a lot of fun. You talk about elderly people have the chance to not only become young, but eventually go to outer space. It's pretty cool. But here's something I wanted to show. This is the video of Cocoon I had for a long time. And this one is from, oh, if I can find it on here, 1995. So almost a decade between these two, and you can see how much the video box styles have changed from CBS Fox to 20th Century Fox. So pretty nifty. Glad to have a couple different copies of that. That's fun. Let's see. Here is Broadcast News from 1987. R.I.P. William Hurt. He passed away recently. I've never been a huge fan of Broadcast News. It does have some really funny parts, and I like Jack Nicholson's role. He just has a small part in this, but some interesting stuff there. This I wanted to show because I actually do have a factory-sealed copy of Broadcast News in my collection. So I have at least one completely sealed, never opened CBS Fox video. So Broadcast News, though, still, you know, a lot of people enjoy it, and I guess if you worked in the entertainment industry, you might appreciate it more than, say, I do. And we have Klaatu Berada Nikto. Michael Rennie was ill the day the earth stood still. But this has got to be one of the most influential and iconic sci-fi films ever made. I mean, 1951, there's very little coming before it. Destination Moon, The Thing from Another World, that's about it. And as a boy, I loved this movie, and I still love it today. Of course, when I was in high school, they remade it with our man Keanu Reeves. Love Keanu Reeves, but I'm not a huge fan of this movie. It's even marketed as an extremely violent remake in the back, more mayhem and carnage, and it kind of defeats the whole purpose of the original film, I think. I don't know. I don't know if they quite knew what they were trying to make, but this is just so iconic and such a good movie. I'm glad to have it on VHS. And I like the still they choose for the cover. It's really nice. Speaking of Rodgers and Hammerstein, shall we dance, shall we dance, shall we dance? So The King and I from 1956. Yul Brynner won an Oscar for this, actually. He is quite good. Has a lot of class and regalness as the king, etc., etc., etc. But, you know, not one of my favorite Rodgers and Hammersteins, but definitely a fun one. And again, that's in this set as well here. Cool to have it, though. I like the design. I actually have the 20th Century Fox video VHS copy of this, too. I should have brought that up from the movie room, and I didn't. I think we have our last one buried amongst the wrappings here. Ooh, that one's coming apart. Yankee Doodle Dandy, but in color. Notice on the spine, you can clearly see the in color mark. if you remember in part 1, I showed the colorized version of White Heat, another Cagney movie. I love James Cagney, he's one of my favorite actors. This will be a real treat to watch because Yankee Doodle Dandy was the movie that got me into his work. I really enjoyed that. And I'm curious to see, this was printed 1986, how this compares to the colorized version from MGM UA. This MGM one looks like 1986 as well. So I'll have to see if these are the same colorized version, the same program, or if they're two completely different things. A lot of times when public domain movies are colorized, the studios will do them completely different ways. You see that with like some of the Three Stooges shorts and stuff. So we'll see what happens when I watch these two, maybe around Independence Day, and we'll see if they're the same or different or what. But always fun to have a Yankee Doodle Dandy, a Yankee Doodle do or die. A real-life nephew of his Uncle Sam, born on the 4th of July. So, hope you enjoyed part 3. We have one more installment to go. That'll be here in probably 2 weeks or so. And I hope you'll tune in for that as we look at the 70s through the 90s. Again, if you have any info, any facts, any views, any opinions, any whatevers on any of these movies that I talked about, or books, since I talked about several books today, don't keep them to yourself. Please comment below. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time.